Welcome to Game Devs Play Games, where you can watch games and practice game design. And today we are here with Bannerman, which was very generously sent to us by Armitage Games. And we're going to check it out. This is a delightful challenging game.
It's one of those games that both me and you simultaneously saw. Like, you got the key for it.
Oh, you hit continue. I've been playing this a little bit. Nothing. No, quit to menu.
Well, you're about to lose all your info.
That's okay. That's fine. I just wanted to play enough to get good, to do better, more better, before we played it on the show, because it's a skill-based fighting game. And so if we just, like, suck and can't progress, then I feel like it would be a poor showcase of this awesome game.
Agreed. Synopsis.
I mean, we kind of get the gist of this.
Yeah, we get the gist of it. We don't really need to talk about it more.
You missed breakfast. It was double rations this morning. Here, help yourself to mine.
Any news?
Nothing yet. Scouts are due back shortly. I'm sure it will be the same story as always. Stand about and look scary while Randall and his men do the same.
How are the men?
Bored. But as long as supplies keep coming through, they're happy enough to sit and wait.
Carry on.
Will do. Oh, Lord Crowley was asking after you. He waits the scouts' return near the camp entrance. So basically, we're part of a military band that's just kind of like in stasis, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're on two sides of the battlefield staring at another one.
Mm-hmm. You look like shit.
What's the situation?
Same as always. We're all ready to fight, never fighting. Wish Crowley would give the order. I didn't sign up to sit in my ass. Arse. On my arse.
Any news?
I made a little deal with one of the scouts. He's swinging by the nearest inn and collecting a few skins of wine for the lads. Come by this evening and help yourself. Keep quiet about it, yeah?
See you later.
Yeah, later. Dude looks so miserable.
Everybody looks... This guy looks...
In the middle of something here, mate. Look, this shite ain't gonna fix itself. The longer I stand here babbling to you, the longer it's gonna take me to finish. So you can either make yourself useful and pick up a hammer and give me a hand, or you can bloody well shove off. I love that guy.
For the record, you cannot find a hammer.
I did definitely. I wasn't looking for a hammer specifically, but I kept walking around and then talking to everyone again, and it's just the same deal. Nice of you to join us.
What's happening?
Scouts have returned, and it looks like Randall and his boys are spoiling for a fight. It's about time we give them one.
No, prepare the man, or what do you have me do? We'll prepare the man. We'll seem capable.
That responsibility can fall on the other veterans.
Ouch.
It's not necessarily
I will prepare the man. Fine.
It's more like you have more important things to do. You have followed me on many campaigns and are a valued member of my company. You will bear my standard and its presence will inspire the men.
Very well.
This is an honorable position. Do not fail me.
So, choices, we'll talk about choices during this playthrough, because there are some choices you make that, dialogue-wise, that really do matter. That was not one of them. No matter what you say there, he says the same thing. He's like, it's an honorable position. Like, yeah, I said thank you.
But I think it makes sense for this early on in the game I totally tried that too, and I was like, oh, I can't do anything. But yeah, this early on in the game, I think it would be unfair to have a significant choice, affect the narrative. Because we don't really understand what's going on yet. Yeah, so we as players can't make intelligent choices.
The earlier that you have like divergent possibilities, the more content you ultimately have to make.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's
when you have to start making double amount of content. I love this little montage, for the record. This is awesome.
Yeah, I like how they express the change of time by like shifting the colors in the scenery. But it's also like we get to see like the carnage of war.
Oh, so good. I wonder what's this way.
And it's interesting too, right? Because like playing it, you might be like, well, why aren't they attacking me? But I think that really the point is that you're witnessing it, whether or not you are in the middle of the action.
It's definitely like a montage, introspective kind of Muriel of events.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're not necessarily literally walking through the crowd of people. I think it's more like
it's just showing you the battle and how everything went.
Exactly. And it's important to keep it front and center. Otherwise, like if it were like just fighting going off in the distance, it wouldn't really mean much. It wouldn't mean as much.
Yeah.
I think seeing the gruesome fighting and the blood splattering, like, and it being right in your face, like from your character's perspective, I think it helps tell a better story, a more compelling narrative of like what's going on here. Stop right there. There's no need for further bloodshed. Hand over the banner and lay your arms. Do this now.
Oh, I'll set the banner down. Yeah. You thought I was gonna lay my arms down. Oh man. I'm gonna trick you. Just so you know, there's nothing else I can do besides basic attack. Ow.
Punch! I like how he's just toying with you too. He's like, I'm not afraid of this fool.
There is no weapon. Ah ha ha.
So
Stupid,
combat...
You fell for it again.
Combat's pretty straightforward. It's you hit high or you hit low, which is very Nidhogg, or Zelda 2, which I like to compare it to. Then you have a block, and then you have a quick and a heavy attack. Although it's crazy that his sword is like fire.
Yeah.
And it just like faded away.
It's magical fire. There is some magic in this.
Yeah. It doesn't show up for a while after this point, I think.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cool way of establishing it so that when it shows up later, it's not like...
It's not completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, and like they do it without really saying anything. They don't really draw attention. You just see this dude with this flaming sword and you're just like, what? Without really like...
Especially when nobody else around seems to have the same ability. Mm-hmm. Hey, you made it out.
Still alive, I see.
The battle?
The battle is lost. The men fled upon seeing my standard fall into Randall's hands. You piece of shit. Randall's forces are returning north with my banner, following the Leopold River.
What can we do?
We will give pursuit. I refuse to submit to this dishonor. The bulk of my men fled toward Walmsleden.
Yeah. Oh, old English, man.
You will head there and regather all whom you can. On your way. You know, I like that he kind of like drives home that you failed, but he doesn't really rub it in too much. He just
but he totally does if you answer the other way.
Oh, really?
So if you say the battle, that's what he says. If you say what happens, he goes, you failed and let the banner fall into the enemy hands. It seems like my trust was misplaced.
Ooh, oh, yeah. Damn.
He is like, so if you're like, what happened? He totally grills you. But if you're just like, what, the battle? Already accepting your defeat and asking how the rest of the battle went, then he tends to gloss over it. There's like little things in the wording here and there, and this is not the only time this happens.
I think the great thing about that is that it can kind of change your perspective on some of these characters too, because like not only are they responding to you, but you as like seeing their responses are going to change how you interact with them in the future. Mm-hmm. And the narrative, I don't know how much it branches, but it does seem like it kind of sets it up so that you might be able to betray him.
It does feel a little that way, although neither of us have gotten far enough to know whether that's the case or not.
Yeah, like I kind of hope that is the case. I don't think it would be too detrimental to the game if it wasn't, but...
So let's talk about, real quick, the mechanics before we move on so that you at least understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. Plays very much like Dark Souls in that there is a stamina meter, and it is a very slow-moving game in terms of its combat, giving you time to react, and at the same time making you commit to your choices.
Yeah, and I normally cringe when, and I'm also prone to doing this too, but I hate it when people unnecessarily compare a game to something like Dark Souls. Yeah. But in this case, I do agree. It's all of your actions are intended to be calculated. It's not just a spam fest. If you spam your attacks, you're just gonna die.
Yeah.
And so in that case, like there's a finer finesse to how combat works in this game, and that's akin to what makes a game like Dark Souls difficult. It's very similar to what makes this game difficult too.
Okay, so you have your stamina meter, you have your health, which is red below. We're using our one weapon available to us. Right bumper will do a quick swing, and then you can actually hold on to it for a double swing. You have 2 different stances.
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
It's very important later on.
Oh.
There's the high and a low stance, and this is your low stance double swing. Then you have your heavy attack, and I love this forever, although it's a little inaccurate, and here's why. So this is when armor became too heavy, swords weren't able to cut through it. So when
you'd
you fought
use the handle to like bludgeon,
hit them in the helmet and bludgeon them. And it makes sense. The only problem with it is our character clearly doesn't have any armor or anything on his arms. The only reason you were able to do that technique is because you would have a chainmail sleeve all along your hands, and then you would have gauntlet on top of that. And so you were able to grip the blade of your sword, no problem, and then so you were able to turn it into a bludgeon. That later on turned into the hand and a half technique, where you'd hold the handle with one hand and put your sword up or hand up this blade, and then you'd have the rest of the sword, and then you'd stab your opponent like that to get enough force to go through the armor. This is my favorite period of like weaponry because it is crazy the amount of different weapons that people came up with. It's so gruesome. Anyway,
it's fantastic.
We talked about that plenty in other playthroughs and other games. So there's and then the low one is actually is that technique. Is where he grabs it by the blade and then thrusts it in. That's awesome. So those were the hand and a half techniques, and you have a punch,
which I really love. It's difficult to use the punch effectively, but every time I do, I feel so good about it.
Oh, it's so good. I think it's more like of an oh shit button.
It is. It really is.
You failed at doing a thing, so you punch him. So there's a dodge, and this is one of the most important mechanics.
I didn't know they gave you the dodge this early.
I didn't realize they did either, actually.
I wonder if it's because we had a playthrough going already.
That might be the case. And
that was just like an oversight.
You have a backward dodge, you have a forward dodge. These actually cost 2 dots of stamina because they allow you to advance or retreat in one direction. Or you can do a low duck or a high. I don't really think there's a huge difference in those, but those only cost 1. Which is cool to note.
I think you're actually not supposed to have a dodge. Here, if you pause it real quick, go to combat techniques. Yeah, so displacement is the first technique
we already
you get.
Have those.
So
so we have things that we're not technically supposed to have yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if that's like a bug in that it doesn't properly clear the player's data, or if they intentionally built it that way so that you could do like a new game plus.
Yeah, but say if you go through the game and then you could choose other options later.
Okay, well, so, sneak peek at what some stuff that's yet to come, but...
Walmsmlayton.
Oh yeah, we can run too. Which you were telling me that there were some reviews for the game thus far.
Almost all positive, except for like 1 or 2.
And they were complaining about the run being like, well, is it even really a run? Are you even going faster? Which, like, obviously we're going a little faster. I think the reason people were and that's why I think people were complaining is because the game itself tends to move slower. And if you're not used to that or prepared for that, it might be frustrating. But I think on one point, it's important that they stuck to their guns with the pacing of the game. Because imagine if it was really fast. You just like burst.
You run really fast, but then you get into the fight and the fight moves slow.
Exactly. It's consistent in a weird way. And this isn't necessarily my favorite style of design. But I think there's a right place and a right time to use this, is that the slower movement means that there's so much more to lose if you fail. It creates stakes that didn't really exist.
And because of that, you tend to be more contemplative about your choices.
Exactly. In a game that the only thing you have to lose is lost time spent on your level, because there's a checkpoint. Basically, every time you start a new day, that's your new checkpoint. So if you die, you start at the beginning of that day, which that's awesome. I think that's a good compromise between losing all of your progress. Like if it's permadeath, that would just suck.
So, first battle.
I
pressed the wrong button.
Starting off strong.
Press the wrong button. So if you block, you will also
consume stamina.
Boink.
Boink. It's not a lot, but the heavier hits will consume it faster. And while you're
blocking, you won't recover stamina either.
Yeah, and I think that's the important distinction, because if you could recover stamina while defending, you would just defend always, and then always perform a counter-strike.
Yeah.
Whereas in this instance, you can defend for so long before you just can't even fight back. which I like that as a system. I think that the stamina meter was probably one of the hardest things to fine tune because
absolutely.
you have too much, then that becomes a viable strategy.
It's your action economy. And that's the core of every game.
Exactly.
Really.
But if you have two, we're at time.
Okay, well, we'll pick up the helmet next time. But we have way more to discuss the combat. Don't worry, you're not, missing out on it too much. I don't know. What do we talk about? There's been kind of like a overarching conversation.
Let's talk about the narrative build up to this point.
Okay. Yeah.
What are they doing to establish the scene and the narrative? Obviously, there's been a lot of like short bursts of dialogue, but I think there's also a lot going on in the environment that kind of like tell a more compelling story than just a couple lines of text.
Especially, one thing I want to point out are the pictures of the faces, which are very medieval in how they're drawn, as well as just the backdrop, I guess the theme of the levels and everything that we're seeing, the art in general, also fits with the narrative. So how does that all work together?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Till next time, we'll definitely be back with more.
Yeah, check out Bannerman in the meantime. I don't think we're going to do a full playthrough of this game unless you guys want us to. So tell us, I guess, in the comments if you want us to finish this game. Yeah. But I encourage you guys to check it out. It's super cheap on Steam. It's like, I don't know,
like $12, something like that, 13, something like that.
Cool. All right, see you in the next episode.
Till next time.